No, I'm black too, and as such, this being my ethnic culture as well, I have a right to have something to say about what I'm seeing going on.
She's right. Black American culture is dying, and ghetto black people are somewhat responsible. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Ooh, I can already see some of the hate comments coming in on this video, but we're gonna talk about it nonetheless because that's what we do on this channel. And if for some reason these spicy takes get us taken off the internet, you guys can support me on Patreon by becoming a patron. Shout out to everybody who has done so far. You know how this goes. Today we're gonna be reacting to a video titled Black American Culture is Dying. Ghetto Blacks Are to Blame. I saw this pop up on my YouTube feed. I said, click, I gotta hear this hot take. And now I've decided to bring it to you guys. So let's react.
Here is my little 2 cents that nobody asked for. I am sick of seeing Black Americans in the media, on social media, in the news, doing crime, walking around next to naked, the women, the men perpetuating gang violence, substance abuse. The absolute worst of our community is oversaturating the media, even though they make up a small percentage of all of Black Americans. The decay of our morality within Black communities has been slowly declining over the past 20 years, and no one is talking about it, no one is saying anything about it or trying to address it. And if you do, you are often told that you're policing Black bodies. If you say Black women, stop getting on the internet and in the media, twerking, walking around with little clothes on. People tell you that you're policing bodies, policing Black bodies.
I don't think it's policing. I think what they're trying to do is prevent the perversion of the American youth. Like, let's take a look at TikTok and Twitch. Or not TikTok, Twitter or X and Twitch. Well, no, TikTok too. Like, you pop on there and what do you see? A bunch of children like twerking or adults promoting their OnlyFans, knowing full well children potentially could be watching. And it's not like they go through and make it clear that their specific platform, their channel, is dedicated for adults. Some of them intentionally don't do that just to get more views. And I feel that has a hand in perverting the American way. I think children should be children, not attempting to be adults far too early.
Let me add on to her list because I think she's going to go on. They are going to accuse you of being a white supremacist, of being whitewashed, of acting white, of being an Uncle Tom, a coon, trading in your race card, not actually being Black. There is a list for the actual accusations that you will get in the wake of giving a very valid criticism of what is happening within Black culture. And she makes an astounding point when she says the Black culture that we see on the internet, in media and entertainment is not indicative of all Black people. I cannot stress that enough. It is a very small section of our population that for some reason is getting more airtime. And you could attribute that to some sort of conspiracy against Black people, or it could be just general cultural decay that our society is so sick that it wants to see these things and that it approves of these things. And yes, it is shaking your ass on the internet and twerking, the sexy reds, the Nickies, the Cardi B's of the world. It is also the gang violence that is encouraged and perpetuated within the Black community, which again represents a small section of the population, but it is there nonetheless. And if you try to talk,
I don't understand that whole the ghetto lifestyle is part of Black culture. You know how many people that aren't Black grow up in these ghetto areas? So are they a part of Black culture? And if so, wouldn't that make them Black? Because if you're putting a skin color to a culture, does it mean that you're that skin color, regardless of what it actually is? It just seems stupid to me. I think the ghetto culture is a piece of American culture. Not that we should be glorifying the ghetto lifestyle. I think it's fucking retarded. There ain't nothing hard about your pants sagging. There ain't nothing hard about telling people you don't know where I'm from, come to my street. My streets will mess you up. A lot of times I hear that, and they're not even, they live in like Orange County. Your streets aren't that tough. I grew up in Detroit. Those streets weren't the hardest I've ever seen, but they were pretty hard. Some areas you couldn't go if you were white past a certain hour. My grandmother is buried in an area where if you don't have a dark enough complexion, you run the risk of not leaving the area alive. So it makes it hard to visit my grandmother's grave without packing some heat and bringing it back up, which is stupid. I should be able to bring flowers to my grandmother's grave, not a Glock 19.
Talk about it and call it out. They say, oh, well, you're not really black, or you're a coon, or you're a traitor. And in my opinion, anybody of any color, race, creed, religion, whatever you want to call it, should be able to have this conversation, because this sort of culture not only impacts black people, it impacts everyone. Let's keep watching.
It's respectability politics. If you are black and you speak your piece on what we're seeing in the media, if you don't like seeing the low morality that is often portrayed about the black community in the media, from the trap music to the black women twerking in music videos and all over social media, the Sukihanas and the Sexy Reds of the world. If you are black and you take issue with it and you talk about it, you are usually called bourgeois, sedity, uppity, it's respectability politics, you're policing black bodies and the like. And it's like, no, I'm black too. And as such, this being my ethnic culture as well, I have a right to have something to say about what I'm seeing going on.
Okay. And then they'll tell you you're just not black enough. You just simply don't understand. These are the things that black culture created, and we should sort of pedestalize these things, because we do pedestalize blackness in our society, but we've really mucked it up. To her point, I think she is exactly hitting the nail right on the head here when she's talking about it. And interestingly enough, I've spoken about these issues many times on the show. Of course, I am half white and half black, and the black side of my family is from Nigeria. So we're not technically, what do they call it? Foundational blacks. I'm not descendant of slaves. So people will give me this argument of, not only are you not black, but you're not able to talk about black culture because you don't technically participate in black culture. But on the other side of
What dictates black culture? Individuals in Africa aren't black because it's not black culture. I think Africans would define black culture. If you want to talk about black cultures being whitewashed, it would be any American black culture has been whitewashed, because they don't behave in the traditional African sense. I don't understand this whole only African Americans can decide black culture. That's stupid. And didn't most of the American slaves come from like Jamaica or something? Not even African or Africa? Fucking stupid. I'll have to let's look that up right now, actually. I spell that right? No, I did not. Went to Brazil, so why is America the standard for slavery? Didn't we have slaves the least amount of time throughout the span of history? Followed by the Caribbean. Okay, so they are of African descent, but we didn't get them from Africa. We got them from the Caribbean. Majority of them from the Caribbean or Caribbean, depending on who you're talking to.
The coin, they will say, why are you talking about, conservative values or these ideas or challenging the racial narratives that we see in this world? You're always going to be seen as an N-word to white people, and you will see that a lot. Just search through the comments. They'll say, oh, you're acting white, but they will always see you as black. So which one is it? Am I a participant in black culture, or am I not a participant in black culture? You guys let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be the first to say, I love a lot of rap music. I do draw the line at like Sexy Red and Pound Town and, the Sukihana type blackness that is being portrayed, but I enjoy it. I just don't attribute it to blackness. I don't listen to Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole and think that this is an accurate representation of blackness. And that's really where we're going wrong, thinking that this is somehow representative of an entire community and an entire culture. And you know how I feel about the word community. We won't go there in this video because we'll be here for hours. We'll do that another day. Let's continue watching.
Your average black American is a middle-class, working-class, blue-collar Jane and Joe. The ghetto subculture, black ghetto subculture that we see often portrayed and over-inundated and oversaturating the media, those black Americans make up a tiny, tiny percentage of black Americans as a whole, but somehow they're in the media, overcompensating in the media, oversaturating the media. I know I don't just speak for myself when I say that I'm sick of seeing it, that it's gross, that it is destroying what black culture actually is. It's co-opting black culture as a whole and making it seem as though all of black culture is ghetto subculture. I'm not the only black American who takes issue.
I like what she did with her hair.
Like I said, majority of black America is middle class, not in the ghettos, not out here.
These glasses complement her face very well.
Promiscuity, and everything else.
Okay. And even black people who live in what is considered the ghetto, most of them are normal. Most of them are not subscribing to this stuff. Most of them are not actively members of gangs, and they want to see their neighborhoods cleaned up. They want to see the culture cleaned up. But instead, we're saying that this is indicative of all black culture and community, and we must preserve these things. And anybody who's trying to fight it, even if they are black people themselves telling you this is not okay, they are race traitors, or they hate black people, or even better, they are anti-black, which how you can be that at the same time as being black astounds me, but people will say that it is something that others are capable of.
And I don't care if you claim it's respectability politics. I guess so be it, because this is gross. It's getting really gross out here how blatantly disrespectful and low class we're acting on social media and in the media, on the internet, on TV. And you can claim that this is someone else's set of moral standards, but no, it isn't. It isn't. Look at Black America in the 50s, in the 60s. Our moral standards back then drastically different from what we have today, or what we're convincing ourselves is a moral standard today.
Amazing point just made. If we go back to the culture of the 1950s and 60s, what did you see within black households? You saw two parents in the house. Not only two parents in the house, but two married parents in the house. They were closing the wealth and income gap that existed amongst black, white people, and other races within the United States of America. Not only that, these people often looked down upon what would later become a black ghetto culture, or at least that's how we see it today. A great resource that actually elaborates on these points is a book by Tom Sowell titled Black Rednecks and White Liberals, where they actually talk about the sort of ghetto black culture that we see now, things like AAVE, African American Vernacular English, for those of you who are unaware, people who say words like ain't, y'all, that sort of ghetto black language. It actually was adopted from white people who came over.
I don't understand that whole slang is black culture. Slang is slang. That's it. It's just ain't is short for is not. Just like LOL is short for laugh out loud. It's not really the same comparison because one's not an analogy, it's still a shorthand. It's still a shorthand for something. So why does that automatically go to the black culture?
to the United States handed that language over to Southern Black people. And there was a deviation in the United States between Northern Black people and Southern Black people. And when these two cultures started to mend and Southern Black people started moving up north, a lot of Northern Black Americans said, you guys can move here, that's fine, but we're gonna operate with a little bit of decorum, right? We're gonna speak normal English, we are going to contribute to society, we are going to get married and have two-parent households and build nuclear families. And it was actually a point of contention between Northern Black people and Southern Black people. Not all of them, of course, but there are actual writings that he references in this book where people said, you know, hold up, you guys can come here, but we have to worry about conserving a proper culture. Now, you can blame white people for the existence and the transference of that culture into the Black community, but at some point we have to take accountability for our own actions. We make choices every single day, especially now when equality has largely been achieved, about how we operate within our culture and in our community. And twerking and using AAV or protecting AAV, protecting things like gang violence and drug usage is probably not the way that we should be operating, but it's what we're doing.
Every racial group on the face of the planet has their own ghetto subculture within their respective racial and ethnic groups. This is the case for everybody, everywhere. White people, Asian people, Mexican people, you name it. The difference is that those racial groups and those ethnic groups do not allow their ghetto subculture to co-opt the entire culture as a whole and to represent the entire culture as a whole. They don't allow it. Everybody else within that respective ethnic group or cultural group or racial group has a right to say how they want to see themselves represented in the media, what they want to see and what they don't want to see, who gets to speak for them and who does not. Except for when you're a Black American and you have something to say about the way that you see Black Americans being portrayed in the media and you have a critique for your peers. You can't do it because it's respectability politics if you attempt to do it. Or you're judging your peers by a set of moral standards that somebody else created, which is a farce. From the Reconstruction era down through the 60s, Black Americans had their own set of moral standards and social protocols that we adhered to. Ask your grannies, ask your great-grannies, they'll tell you. I have had just about enough of seeing Black culture being drugged through the muck by other Black Americans who are perverting it and turning Black culture, something that is beautiful, into something perverse. Showing their ass on the internet all the time. The men are constantly rapping and talking about gang violence. Our children are uneducated and stupid.
Let's pause on the children part real quick because she's just dropping the mic every sentence that she puts out. We've seen videos of teachers, in fact, a ballet teacher saying, you know, I'm teaching 5-year-old girls in ballet class and they're coming in and they're asking for me to play Sexy Red. And when I say that this is not appropriate, and I even bring that to the parents are saying, why are you talking back to my kid? My kid knows what's up. You see teachers whose kids can't read, but they know every single Drake song, every single lyric. They know Sexy Red, they know Cardi B, they know all these songs. So much so that teachers are actually using rap music as a way to teach in the classroom now, which you can view that however you will. I do think it is a sign of social decay that we have to use tools like this in order to teach children. So she's very right when it comes to kids' participation in this culture. And you know what? Adults can make choices for themselves. If they want to twerk and rap and join a gang and all this different stuff, okay, you're an adult. I don't agree with the choice that you're making, but there we go. Just don't refer to it as Black culture, in my opinion. But when you get kids who are the most innocent and vulnerable among us involved in this culture, and they're now perpetuating the narrative, it is awful because they cannot defend themselves. They don't know right from wrong. They're simply being told that something wrong is something that should be implemented in their lives. And you know what? They're going to turn to the people who criticize this culture and say that you guys are anti-Black, but in fact, this culture is creating more anti-Blackness. If you are doing things that are not good for society, that lead to societal sickness, that perpetuate ideas of drug addiction, violence, promiscuity, and you say this is Black culture, you're going to lead a whole lot of people who aren't Black to think, ugh, I don't like Black people. This is their culture. This is what they bring into the world. They are less valuable than other people. So you're actually creating racism by defending things that are objectively not good for our society and our communities.
We've created a cultural standard of promiscuity and single motherhood. And when a Black American goes to critique and judge our peers, our fellow Black Americans, and critique the condition of our neighborhoods today, they're shut down. That's respectability politics. You're policing Black Americans. If that's what it is, so be it. So be it. It needs to be said. And in order for us to attempt to escape accountability or responsibility on our own part, we claim that the conditions that we see in Black communities is being caused by somebody else. It's not our own fault. It's white people and it's structural racism or something or another. It's everybody else's fault except for our own. Give me a break. It's pitiful. It's pitiful that we refuse to take accountability for the things that we see going on in our communities. And sure, we can acknowledge that structural racism and the history of slavery in this country and discrimination and Jim Crow and Black codes and all of that has played a part in the conditions and some of the conditions that we see in Black communities. But we also have to be responsible for the ways in which Black Americans create their own.
It's almost time for me to feed my cats.
To the degenerative effects that we see going on in our communities.
100%. I love that she acknowledges that fact because it's something that so often in the conversation can go unacknowledged, and then people use racism and systemic racism and Jim Crow and slavery as a scapegoat on the issue, and they just sort of push everything over to that side and say this is why this is happening. Again, it did impact, but I think it is a small portion of the pie.
What the fuck just happened?
No, I'm Black too, and as
more Black people.
What the fuck? Part of the video is missing. What?
This excuse is wearing thin. We're getting tired of it. And this is not an absence of acknowledgement that something horrendous happened and that it has an impact. It's just to say, maybe we can't keep using that excuse for too much longer.
Black Americans who don't want to hear.
What was discussed in the area that doesn't pop up? Why was this removed? Is YouTube blocking this? Or did she get like copyright for something in here or receive a warning? I don't know. We're missing some context here. That's kind of alarming given the topic.
Hear that? Immediately run to innocence. They rush to innocence. They claim that it's respectability politics to call out these issues in our community. They claim that it's policing Black bodies to call out the low morality and the moral decay in our community. Call it whatever you want. You're not going to get me to shut up about it. I'm Black. This is my culture too. I have a right to talk about and critique what is happening in my culture and have something to say about it. That's all.
Ooh, she said, that's all. A very great video in only 6 minutes, and she absolutely killed it. I think every single point that she made, I wholeheartedly agree with, and there's just so much to expand on because we see so many examples of this happening within the culture, and I hate to see it attributed to all Black people when that is in fact nowhere near the case. I think there are a lot more Black people than anybody is willing to recognize that are coming forward and saying, this is not okay, and I don't agree with this, and some of them are being silenced, so they hold that opinion within themselves and are not allowed to share it out loud. I saw a TikTok trend recently with Black people writing on the screen, you know, as a Black person, this is something that I'm scared to admit or I've been afraid to admit for quite some time. And you swipe to the second slide and it says, you know, I'm afraid of ghetto Black people, or I don't feel like ghetto Black culture is really a representation of who I am. And they're afraid to say this because they know the retaliation that comes in the wake of making a statement like that. You are immediately labeled as anti-Black, or as this woman said, policing Black bodies, when we know that's not the case. So maybe we'll make this video on this channel a safe space, for lack of a better word, for people to give their opinions on this topic. Even if you disagree with everything I said in this video, drop it in the comments down below. Hopefully we start some healthy debate.